Right. Hello, my name is Adrian. I sometimes go by the name of Simon, and this is a thoughts video on the best game of 2018. And I don't mean that lying down. This is one of the most enjoyable games I have ever played. This is Rising Sun by Eric Lang. It's published by CMON, and essentially it's a sequel to Blood Rage, and that it's dudes on the map, area control, but this time it's set in feudal Japan with mythical monsters, and it's more diplomacy than Blood Rage's straight up combat. That's the sales pitch. In reality, though, it plays very differently to Blood Rage, and I think it's the better of the two games. Let's just get into it. How the game plays is that essentially you're going to take control of one of the clans vying for control of feudal Japan. You have access to Bushi, Shinto, and your daimyo, and you're trying to control different territories over the course of 3 seasons. During each season, you'll get to form alliances during the tea ceremony. You'll then do a political mandate phase where you'll choose your actions that everyone will get to benefit from, and then you'll go into the battle phase in which you'll be using this handy dandy almost blind bidding board with coins to actually try and win battles. The battles are predetermined simply because they randomize each game, so you never know what area is going to be under your control. And the main way of winning the game is by scoring points. The person with the most points wins, and you get points, well, basically by either getting certain upgrade cards, which will get you points doing different actions. You might get points by controlling different kami shrines, or you might get points by winning battles, and you will get points at the end of the game for each area you control and for each set. The more different areas you have, the larger your score. So you kind of want to focus on expanding and gain every single area in the game if possible, because that's going to be the best way to maximize your score, but that might not necessarily be the way you win. In the tea ceremony phase, you simply are going to form alliances, and then you get to the political mandate phase, where going around the table, each player will simply choose from a stack of these wonderful tiles. By the way, I have the Kickstarter version. I will be talking about the differences, but keep in mind, these are going to be one of them. These are actually cardboard in the retail set. But you'll choose one of these actions. So you could say choose the harvest action, and then everyone will do the harvest action. And then similar to like Twilight Imperium and similar to Citadels, is that the person who chose the action and their ally, they will get a bonus. So for example, if you say Marshall, you'll get to move your people, and everyone else will get to move your people, but you and your ally will be able to build a stronghold as well, which will allow you to get more people out during the game. Likewise, if you choose, say, for example, the train mandate, which is this one over here. If you choose train, you'll get to choose one of the season cards, and there are a lot of season cards. These are similar to the drafting cards in Blood Rage, and these will kind of determine your strategy going throughout the game, but it's not that big of a deal since they're going to give you cool powers, they're going to give you access to cool monsters, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to dictate your strategies. But what is cool though, is you have a core set of season cards, core set of upgrade cards, and then you'll basically choose a supplementary deck to add more cards from, and these are determined by the symbols. Now, you get 3 in the base game, and then you can also get 1 in the Kami expansion and 1 in the Dynasties expansion, and so that means you'll have access to 5 of them. So there's a nice bit of replayability there going on. And of course, these are all different. So for example, the Kami shrine, Kami tiles might revolve a bit more around honor and worshiping of gods, whereas the base game ones tend to focus more solidarity, more streamlined kind of things, or more simple objective based stuff. However, really cool addition to the game. I really like the fact that these change every time. There is the problem that the person who has played the game before will have an advantage because they'll know what cards are going to come out. It's almost unavoidable in this game. You kind of either want to start off with 4 very brand new players who don't know the game, or you want to make sure that you're constantly playing with the same group because you will develop a meta. This was the same in Blood Rage, but I think it's lessened in this case, where Blood Rage, if you knew the cards, you were at a very good advantage, whereas with Rising Sun, you can still make good choices even if you're not sure of what's going to be coming up. Once the political mandate phase is done, you'll then go and do the combat phase. The combat phase is actually really cool. You essentially are going to try and perform these actions before you actually go to the battle outcome, which will destroy people's figures. So the first thing is you can perform seppuku. People have said that this is terrible. Why is it in the game? It doesn't. It's cultural appropriation. It doesn't really fit, and it's kind of like insensitive. Honestly, I don't mind it. I think it's really cool. I like it. I think it does actually work with the game. The idea of you basically know you're not going to win the fight, and then you're going to just kill off your people. Very cool. You kill off your people. Now, when I say you kill off your people, I say that only if you win the battle. You see, essentially, you're going to be taking coins. And you're going to be trying to basically get coins throughout the game. And then when battle comes or war comes, you'll be bidding, secretly bidding on each of these tracks. And the person with the most coins gets to perform that action if they want. So you might think your opponent's going to try and perform seppuku, and you might try and block it by, say, putting more coins on a spot than he does. Likewise, take hostages. You might not want your dragon or, your big, scary Oni figure from actually being destroyed or taken hostage, because then their special ability won't work. So you might put a lot of coins onto hostage, but then they might try and hire Ronin, which is just a simple way of just adding more forces to the game, but these don't really count as actual figures, and that's going to swing the battle. And then finally, you then sing. People will then sing about people who died. So you could essentially have a situation where you perform seppuku, you kill off all your people, and then you hire Ronin to actually win the battle for you, and then you sing about all the people that died off as well, which will include your enemies because you won the battle. Once you've done that, you'll then obviously win the province, and that where it's taking place, a war tile, essentially. And you'll keep doing that for each central province, and then the season will be over. You'll do some seasonal upkeeping where you'll change season cards, and that's about it. But what's cool though, the person who wins, they have to give all their money they spent to the person that lost, which means there's a wonderful level of strategy where you're trying to think, okay, well, this battle is gonna happen first. I'm not involved in that, so that person that I'm going to be involved with later on, he might not have much coins, but if he loses and doesn't spend any coins, he's going to have a ton of coins to use in our battle. So maybe I want to try and coax him into possibly winning the battle. This game featured negotiations somewhat, in that it's very light negotiation. You might be like, please, could you do this? I will return the favor later, or let's be allies because we're really going for two different things. It's not as heavy negotiation as you would think. This is nowhere close to the negotiation tactics of Twilight Imperium or Archipelago, or even, the betrayal and traitor negotiations and lying that happens in games like Resistance or Werewolf, for example. But there is a wonderful level of complexity to this game in every single action you do, and that's what makes it so incredibly enjoyable. This war thing is great. It's funny because people will lift up their screen and then they'll instantly see, oh, you won this, oh god, that's terrible for me, and then you just burst out into laughter. Likewise, in this game, you have something that's called honor. And when you commit seppuku, you increase in honor. And honor breaks ties, and that happens a lot more than you think, because ties are almost always just going to be 1, 2, 3, or possibly 4 points. The game rarely goes much further than that. So you could say put one coin on seppuku, and your opponent might do the same thing because he thinks that you're going to be putting tons on, and he doesn't want to really win that. But then you basically both have won, and your honor is broken because you have the highest honor. You get to go because you have the highest honor. And it's wonderful. It's such a mind game when you play the battles. You're trying to think, okay, well, he's going to obviously try and perform seppuku to kill off his guys, and he wants to sing about it. But maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's going to take my people hostage and actually try and win the battle instead. There's so much thought behind it. And it's fun. A lot of times people think, okay, well, I don't have enough information to go on. But people have to tell you the truth when it comes to how many coins they have. So if I have 9 coins, I have to say I have 9 coins. But you might not put all 9 coins onto one spot. You might try and get away with putting less coins and then maybe you want to take hostages as well. You want to double dip, but it's risky. Do you actually do that? And then, of course, it's the kind of thing where you'll get to another battle, and another battle, and another battle. In a 4-player game, there are 6 battles you have to deal with, and you're wanting to try and win them, but you might not want to be winning them. For example, you can get a lot of points simply just by killing off your people, and that also brings you up on honor. You become the highest honorable person, and it's thematically funny when the worst player at the table is also the least honorable, but he has so much money available. When he has 19 coins, but he's the least honorable person, it's just a funny kind of story that gets told. And the political mandate phase, I should point out that this phase is so interesting because you only have 2 of each tile, and you also have the betray tile, which could basically break your alliances, but you can replace your figures. But each of these tiles is crucial to your strategy because of the bonuses that you get. If you recruit, you and your ally get an extra person to recruit as. If you train, you and your ally each get a discount and you get to pick first. If you do a simple thing of, say, doing a harvest, only you and your ally get the harvest bonus. The rest of the team, or the rest of the table, they just get 1 coin. It's a shitty feeling, but it's funny when this happens because you're basically paying people not to play these tiles. And that's where the negotiation kind of comes in. I will say now, though, one of the big things we found was that in a 3 and 4 player game, this is a very meaty system. It's lovely. It's so good to feel these tiles, play them out, and choose your actions. But as you get closer to the 5 and 6 players with the expansion, the game starts becoming more of a drag because you have less options. You have less actions that are going to be positively affecting you. Everything is good for you, but it's the timing of when you play stuff. For example, you might try and play recruit when you know your ally doesn't want to play recruit. You might try and want to do recruit when you can see that your opponent already has all their figures on the board and it's not going to help them in the slightest because they then choose to perform seppuku. And that's wonderful. But again, as you go up into more player counts, you start to realize, hang on a second, there's only space for what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only space for 7 actions each season. So there's only 21 actions that will happen throughout the whole game in this political mandates. And if you play in 6 players, that gives you very few times that you actually going to get a choice in the matter as to what happens. And so what happens is you essentially start focusing more on negotiation. You essentially start asking people, please play this mandate. I desperately need it to happen. And so that's what happens. As you go to less players, you have more control, but you have more meaningful choices. As you go to higher up player counts, it starts to become reliant on the negotiation skills. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the higher player counts do feel more of a drag. They really do. They are long. They take each person that you add adds another 30 minutes to it. You have more provinces that are under control, and it just becomes less easy to have a grasp on the handle. Because remember, when I said this game is complex, I mean it. The way the political mandate tiles comes out, you might see that there's only two trains, and you have them all the way at the top, which means there's very likelihood that there's going to be 2 training sessions for that season. Or it might be a situation where there's 2 betrayals and 2 marshals. That means your only 2 choices are those 2 choices. And that's intense because you're trying to think, well, how can I make this to my benefit? Every action you do in this game rewards you to some degree. It feels so good to just put a nice monster down on the field. It feels so good to be the most honorable player in this game. But you're thinking, okay, well, if I become the most honorable player, I can contest the person for one of the Kami shrines, and that's going to give me points. But then will someone actually play the recruit action? And then how is that going to affect the battle outcome because I have to put my people in the right place? There is so many good, thought-provoking choices to be made in this game. It's wonderful. In Blood Rage, you kind of felt that you were at the whim of a certain strategy that you had drafted. In this, you don't feel that at all. Sure. I will say now, each clan does have a really cool power that kind of just makes it asymmetrical, but these powers don't shape your clan. You know, you can still say go for the bonsai clan and just focus heavily on, say, Oni figures. Or you might want to say go for a strategy that's more focused on virtue cards, or you want to focus on strategies winning battles. What's great is those powers don't necessarily dictate how you're going to play. They don't dictate how you're going to win the game. They are just a nice addition, and they feel strong. You want to play with each of those powers at least once, but they're not overwhelming to the point where they are just that's the focus. That's the strategy you have to focus on, and every power is cool. I will say now the miniatures are unbelievably good. Like, these are absolutely wonderful for the amount of detail that CMON has put into them, and they do live up to the reputation of being cool minis or not. With all that being said, I think now's a good time to talk about the negatives I have. I already spoke about the one where I'm not as enthralled at higher player count simply because the game takes too long and you have less choices and it becomes more of a drag. I think the biggest complaint a lot of people have is maybe the theme of seppuku and warring factions, and the Oni are, I mean, these guys can be a bit gross, but the biggest complaint is obviously going to be the Kickstarter stuff. You see, this is the Kickstarter expansion, or Kickstarter edition, which means you get cool plastic tokens instead of horrible cardboard shits. And you have, say, these battle markers, which are also going to be cardboard. Again, these chunky and enjoyable and nicely weighted tiles become just normal cardboard tiles and doesn't feel that great. And likewise, I managed to get the metal coins. Though you do get plastic coins in the base game, but people are going to be upset with that because the game does feel like it deserves these component upgrades. It just feels so much better handling them for a game that you pay a lot of money for. That's not to say that the cardboard tokens are bad. The ones I've felt look great. The artwork on them is stunning. But for example, say you take the fortresses, right? These are fortresses that you can put down on a map. And when you play in a regular game with the base game, you kind of just get a boring cardboard token, but in this you get a nice plastic miniature figure. Likewise, these alliance tokens that you kind of shove together, these feel so much nicer as a nice big blob of plastic than this a piece of cardboard. And so that's going to be the one thing. If you are a person who wants the deluxe version, you're going to be spending money on trying to buy a pledge that someone else has already got. And if this game is as good as I think it is, it's going to be quite difficult to do so. Another thing is there is gameplay exclusive stuff, which is not great. For the monsters, additional monsters, you have 8 in the base game, and you get another 4 in the monster expansion, and then you get 7 lucky gods in the dynasty expansion, which can only be used by those clans. You do get a fair plethora of monsters, and they all have relatively very cool abilities, and you're not going to be missed by having less of the Kickstarter exclusive ones. If essentially, a lot of the Kickstarter exclusive monsters aren't actually as good as the regular ones. They feel like they were ideas or afterthoughts. I think there's only like 2 Kickstarter monsters I actually really enjoy playing with. The rest are okay. They have a very specific purpose and they can be utilized well, but they're not as, say, simple as the Oni, which is just stronger if you have the lowest honor. So that's the one thing. Secondly, there is the additional clan. In the Kickstarter version, you get the Fox clan, and the Fox clan is basically the last clan you need. There is one clan for every area on the board, and the Fox clan is one of them. They're a nice orange color. And you don't have access to that, which means you don't get their special power. On the one side, people have said that power is a bit too strong to play around. My experience is that it's okay, it's very manageable, but I do feel like people are going to be missing out on this, having those little extra touches when it comes to the different sculpts and that extra asymmetrical power. Again, if you buy the retail box, you'll get a lot of stuff. You then can buy the Kami expansion and the Monster expansion and the Dynasty expansion, which gives you 2 more clans. You'll get Kami, they'll go onto the board, or gods, they'll go into the board, and you also have 4 more additional monsters. So you'll have a very sizable chunk of the game. It just sucks that you do have those cool mini or not Kickstarter stuff, which again is not great. This is entirely up to you as to, do you want to buy this game? Is the extra stuff going to be nagging at you? I know when I played, I spoke to my friends and they also did the Kickstarter pledge. And they were almost sad that they didn't get the Dynasty expansion simply because they didn't know how good the game was going to be at the time. And now, if you get the Dynasty expansion, you don't get plastic fortresses in the retail version of the Dynasty expansion, which is just really crap. It really is. Hopefully you can get them on eBay, but again, you're looking at paying a lot of money, which is simply just for cosmetic purposes, and you are missing out on a few gameplay features. All that's being said, however, this game is brilliant. I love the amount of choices in the game. I love that you can make it into a very negotiation heavy game, but you don't have to. I love the amount of funny elements in this game. Let me explain one scenario that happened which absolutely sealed this as one of the best games of all time. We had a situation where me and my friend were fighting in the province. And what happened was one of our other friends was also in the province. He had 0 coins, which means basically he had 1 figure and could not bet on any of these actions during the war phase. However, what happened is because of the outcome between me and my friend who were busy fighting over the same province at the same time, we obviously had spent a lot of our coins and performed these actions. It turns out the person who won that province was not me, it was not my friend, it was the guy who had 1 figure and no money. It was like, it dawns on you afterwards, you're like, wait, you won that? And he won that because he had the highest honor, and you're just like, you just can't help but burst into laughter when that happens. You're in shock that actually managed to work out, but it's great that the game allowed that to happen. There's so many funny moments when someone slams a monster onto the board, stomps around it for a bit, and then all of a sudden it gets captured in combat. It's hilarious. And again, people say that, oh, the monsters should be grand because you have these big, wonderful sculpts, and I don't think that's relatively the case. A lot of the cool cards are just cards, and that is good for me. I like that. I like that you don't get forced into buying these monsters. I like that you don't get forced into playing a certain strategy simply because the clan you chosen. I love the replayability that this different seasonal cards gives you. I love that you have 8 clans, all of which have different powers that you can go to. And I love that you have those choices in the political mandate phase when you can do... Here's the thing. In the last 2, basically, political phases in the game, in round 3, I betrayed my ally, and then he betrayed me. And that's wonderful. It's such a funny moment when you're like, yeah, my best move right now is to basically betray my ally. It's funny. It's so incredibly funny when it happens. And the amount of conversation that happens on the table. I've had people who, like me, I enjoy Blood Rage a lot. But this game absolutely wipes Blood Rage and kicks it out the door. This game has so much more going for it than what Blood Rage offers. This has more control over your actions. It has a far better graphical style, in my personal opinion. The board comes to life when you get to put all these figures down, all these brightly colored pieces down. It's absolutely wonderful. I cannot stress this enough. This game is by far going to be in my top 10 games of 2018, even after the small amount of plays I've done. But this game, almost very likely, right now, is my #1 game of 2018. If you want a dudes on the map game, and you already have your Cyclades, you already have your Innis, you already have your Commit, you already have your Blood Rage, go for this game. Honestly, actually, stress that. If you want an area control game, this is the game to get. It's brilliant. I can't stress it enough. Anyway, I hope that gives you some insight into Rising Sun. Sorry if the video was too long. I did want to try and give it a very thorough thoughts video. I think the game is awesome. If you have enjoyed this video, then remember to hit the like button and obviously subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you don't like the video for whatever reason, maybe you don't think seppuku belongs in the game, then maybe leave a comment and hit the dislike button so at least I know what is going on. As for me, thank you so much for watching. This is going to be it for me. Bye-bye.